the ending of my marriage and was hopeful that it would last a lot longer. And after the divorce, I spent a lot of time looking in myself to try to find what does it take to have a loving and intimate relationship with another person. And what I found was most of the same things that I was trying to do in my marriage was out there when I was reading, but obviously they didn't work. So there had to be something different. And I know this may sound very obvious to our listeners, but what I realized is in order to have a loving and intimate relationship with another, is that I have to have that with myself first. And it's really, our mind is very tricky trying to think that our husbands, in this case, we're talking to women, can provide those things for you somehow, that your husband has the capacity to fill those needs in you when you don't feel them yourself. So really the goal here is learning how to connect to yourself and be true to yourself so that you can fill those needs for yourself by having a relationship with yourself, so you're not becoming dependent on your well-being and your husband, which we most of us realize is that our husbands can't make us feel happy or can't make us feel loved if we don't have that within ourselves. So it became very clear to me that I had to start finding ways to love myself and have a deep sense of who I was and bringing that to a relationship. And that really has become the foundation of our relationship course at a New Life Center, is to reconnect with ourselves and find out who we are, being true to ourselves and bringing that to our marriage and not become dependent on our partner, our husband in this case, to provide those things for us, because it's an empty cup with holes in it that never can be filled.
Yeah.
So Karen, can you review our core principles
I can.
today?
So, just tying into what David just said, these core principles that we follow in our Facebook group and in what we teach and in our message is really the roadmap to not be dependent on your husband and to be strong and independent within yourself in a healthy, empowered way. And the first principle is that you are responsible for your happiness.
Mm.
And we hear that everywhere. I think most of us, we know that, but we get really caught up in thinking that our husbands or the other people in our lives or our jobs are supposed to make us happy. And then we remain really unhappy on the inside. So we have to really start to learn and understand that happiness is an inside job and that's nobody else's responsibility but our own. And the second guiding principle is the only person that you have any control over to change is
Mm.
yourself. That you can't change your husband, you can't change your kids, you can't change anyone in your life, and they can't change you for you. That if you want to experience change or transformation, then you've got to focus on yourself and be the one to change, and then you will experience your life, experience your marriage in brand new ways because of you, which is really empowering.
And if
And
I can interrupt, it's
of
it's
course,
really it's fascinating how this works. When we change ourselves in a constructive way, all of our relationships almost instantly change because how people are responding to us changes, and we think that the way people are responding to us is because of them, but it actually is in a very deep, fundamental way. They're responding to us and how we are. And when we change ourselves, it's almost like magic. All of our relationships changes, and they're because they're responding differently to who we are and how we feel about ourselves.
it's true. We've got to go first and be vulnerable to experience what David just shared. Otherwise, we'll stay in our stories and beliefs
Hmm.
about why it's everybody else and why my life is always the same or my
Yeah,
marriage is always the same and I can't change. So
yeah.
the third, that really leads into the third
Hmm.
principle that in order to be an authentic married woman or an authentic woman, period, is about having a relationship with yourself and feeling good about who you are, which comes from dropping our walls and taking the risk to be vulnerable in our lives and be who we really are. And when we do that and we show up as who we are in our marriages and our other relationships, it really does change everything. And so
Mhm.
it all starts with you. And we know, and I know personally because I've been through
Mhm.
this work and I'm doing it in my life and doing it in my marriage, that it can feel like a lot, like, well, that's a lot of responsibility. But when it comes down to it, it's so much easier to
Mhm.
live this way and so much more empowering because then you are in charge of your life. You're in the driver's seat, which is a lot more fun, a lot more fulfilling than constantly focusing on your husband and what he needs to do to change or constantly focusing on everything that's wrong. You just get to focus on yourself. And like David said, it's like magic and your whole
Mhm.
life can change. So those are our guiding principles, and that's really what we're here to teach and help women discover in themselves.
Thank you, Karen.
Of course.
So, what's the topic, the title of our talk today?
The title of our talk today is Why Your Husband Never Does What You Tell Him to Do.
Wow, that's a pretty common complaint. I've been working with women and married women for over almost 12 years now. It's one of the most common complaints that married women have with their husbands is that he never does anything when I tell him to do, or he'll
Mhm.
tell me he'll do something and then he won't do it.
Yeah.
And it's a constant feeling like everything is on my shoulders. My husband doesn't do anything, never follows through. I feel like I'm a babysitter,
Mhm.
or more importantly, I feel like I have another child in my house, and I'm always constantly on him, trying to get him to do things, and he never follows through and does what I ask him to do. It's like everything is on my shoulder, and
Yeah.
I can't get anybody to do anything in the house. Like it's like the weight of everything is on me. And that's what we're going to talk about is why your husband doesn't follow through and do it when you ask him to do things. So what what myth are we busting today, I
Yeah.
guess?
Yeah. So the myth we're busting alongside what we're talking about today is the myth that men are oblivious to our needs. And we're going to look at our part and role as women in this that creates this very experience we have in our marriage of our husbands not listening, not doing what we tell them to do, and then we internalize as they are oblivious to our needs.
Yeah. And the good thing about why we do these videos is first of all to know that at a New Life 7 we have courses and for men and what they need to be responsible in a marriage.
Yeah.
So this is not saying that men don't have issues and things to work on. This is we're doing this for women and what married women can look at in their marriage, knowing that they can't change their husband. What things can they change about themselves? What things they can be empowered to look at themselves and say, "Oh my God, I am doing that. Well, no wonder my marriage is this way if I'm behaving like this. And possibly if I change my behaviors and stop doing this, is it reasonable to my husband will change?" Well, most women will say, "Well, you don't know my husband." But
True.
the truth is that if you're with a good man, meaning the man that you married was responsible and kind, and most women over the years with working again 10 to 12 years with women know whether they're with a good man or a bad boy, or they married a good man or a bad boy. And if you're married to a good man, that what that means at a fundamental level, if you change your behavior and your approach to him, will be responsive because he, at a very deep level, really wants only your happiness and wants you to have everything you can. But he gets, and we'll learn today why he gets so frustrated and doesn't know what to do anymore and gets confused and withdraws. And before you know it, he's like a roommate. And that's because of the topic we're going to talk about today, which is what?
Well, what we're talking about in connection to all of this is actually the concept of double standards,
Yeah. But
which
so why was when we were talking about Karen? Why was did first of all, what is a double standard, and why did you struggle with it when we were talking about our call today?
yeah, so the definition of a double standard is finding fault in our partners so we don't have to change. And that we put the focus on our husband's flaws so that we don't have to look at our own issues. And so as David and I were talking about the video like we do every single week
Mm.
before we hop on here, so we're clear on what our message is and what we want to talk about with all of you, our viewers and listeners. Um, it, it kind of hit me how many double standards I still have in my marriage, and really seeing how harsh I am with my double standards and how unkind they are to my
Mm.
husband, and what that really does in our marriage. So for those who are new, or this might be your first video you're watching, everything that I teach and work with other women on, I'm doing the same work in my marriage. And
Mm.
for a while there, I thought that there was this proverbial like there I
Yeah.
was supposed to get
Mm.
to,
Yeah.
and that I was supposed to get to this place where I didn't have issues and challenges in my marriage and myself. And now I know that that's absolutely not true. That the nature of a marriage is it's hard work,
Mm.
and I'm a work in progress, and continually looking at myself to become the
Mm.
best version of me that I can become.
Beautiful.
So there's always new things getting kind of shaken up for me to look at, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
every time I'm willing to look at those things, then I change, and then my marriage changes.
Yeah.
And then I get to teach other women how to do the same.
Yeah.
So that's how this works.
Good. And also remind our listeners that when you see, we want you to see yourself in these behaviors,
Yeah.
because not to make you feel wrong and bad, and that you're not, it's, but to see that this this is your behaviors, or these are your behaviors, and that it's something you can do to change, and it's normal for women that are married to have double standards. It's
Yeah.
a very common thing that comes up with women over the years, and they have a really hard time owning it. But once they see it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so clear that I have double standards with my husband. I always ask him to do the things that I'm not actually willing to do, and expect him to do it without any consideration that I'm supposed to do it, and I have any responsibility to do it myself. So it's a very common thing, and we're just trying to bring it up so that you can look at yourself and say, "Oh my gosh, that's something I can do to change." And I really love my husband and want things to work. And I
I'm back.
lost Karen for a moment, and hopefully she'll be coming back.
Can you see me now?
I can.
Okay, good.
That was fun. I practice my, oh, we have technical difficulties
Yeah.
comment. Okay, so Karen, can we just jump into the list? So
Yeah.
what are some common examples of double standards that you and I we came up with that is very common with women that we see over and over again over the years of working with married women in marriages?
Yep. So the first example that we have down is that my husband can't get angry and lose his temper, but I'm justified in my anger.
Wow,
Yeah. That
that
it's like I expect zero negative reactions or anger from my husband at all times, but if I lose my temper and and I'm angry, then it's okay because I'm justified in it. I have a
yeah.
reason.
Yeah, and yes, yeah, and often women, when the men get angry, they make them wrong and for their response, but they feel like, well, when I'm angry, it's for a real good reason, and yeah,
Yeah, it's
great,
kind of it kind of links to David into men should have no feelings. Like you're not allowed your feelings, but I'm
yeah,
justified in all of mine.
yeah. That's it. That's a double standard.
All on its own.
Say
Yeah.
that again.
That's
Yeah,
the one we didn't come up with
yeah,
before the list,
yeah.
but that my husband should have no feelings, and that I am entitled to have all of my feelings and I'm justified in them.
Right, right.
Like he shouldn't
Or
feel anything.
or that his feelings aren't valid.
They don't
And that
count.
they don't
My
count.
one of my biggest issues in my marriage, and I run up against this all the time with many of my female clients as well, i- is that my husband should just take it
Yeah,
all the time, that I can be in my feelings, I can be sad, I can be depressed and having a rough time, and that he should just support me and all of
yeah,
that and take it. And then as soon as he's having a tough time, he might be going through something and
yeah,
maybe be depressed or sad or angry about something, I'm there just trying to fix it. Don't you feel anything?
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So the next one on our list is that our husband, he needs to be responsible with money, but I can spend what I deserve or am entitled to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Think
how
of
have you seen that?
the secret shopping trips,
Yeah.
ladies, and
Yeah.
hiding things, but then you see your husband, spends too much on that extra six pack of beer or whatever it is, and you're not sticking to the budget when we've got a pair of shoes they don't know about hiding in the closet. Yeah.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. The next one is he can't have guy time, but I justify girl time because I deserve it.
Why and
Meaning,
why might the ladies say that they deserve their time with their women?
well, I
Their
think it goes back a little bit to what you were saying a few moments ago
yeah.
about how we feel all the responsibility
That's
falls
right.
on us. I have to take care of everything. I get no help. I take care of the kids. I do
Yeah.
the laundry. I do the cooking. I need me time. I
Yeah.
need to spend time with the girls.
Yeah. And you don't get to have it because you're not doing the things that you need to do,
Yeah,
and you need to get those things done
yeah,
before you can go and do your things. Yeah.
yep. And the
Right.
next one on the list really ties into that one a little bit too. I can have 1,000 questions about what he is doing, but don't question me.
Yeah.
So if my husband's going to go out and have guy time, I'm going to ask a gajillion questions about who he's going to be with, what he's going to be doing, what time are you going to be home? You need to check in at this time, right? We kind of treat them like a teenager. We're
Mm.
going out, and then it's like, don't ask me who I'm going to be with or what I'm doing. I'll be home when I'm home,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we expect that to just fly and be okay.
Yeah. It's more it's don't question me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really that I think that's that what I've heard most women say is that kind of in a righteous way, yeah.
yeah.
So
And yeah, the don't question me, I think will come to light. We're going to share another
yeah,
list when we're on it through with this
yeah,
one about why we don't want to be questioned.
yeah,
So the next one on our list is this is a good one. When I initiate sex and he is not interested, I feel rejected and undesirable, but I have the right to choose when I want to have sex or not. He should just understand with no questions.
that's a very common one. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So again, these are double standards. Again, what is a double standard? What we defined it as?
Finding fault in our partners so we don't have to change.
Yeah,
And essentially, we put the focus on their flaws so we don't have to look at our own issues and look at ourselves. And a good way to explain this is I want you to do this, but secretly, I have no intent to ever do it myself.
yeah.
Yeah, I want you to do this, but I have no intention of doing
And
it.
this is done at a very unconscious level.
Good
Yeah.
point.
And what we do in each one of these videos is bring these unconscious behaviors that you're not aware of in your daily interactions with your husband. But when you bring the unconscious conscious, you can really see, oh my gosh, this is me. And I don't want to be, like you said, Karen, I don't want to be hurtful and unkind.
Mhm.
I didn't realize what I was doing. I just thought he was not doing the things that I asked him to, and I got angry and get resentful. But I didn't realize that I was the cause of why he isn't doing the things I asked him to do. And wow, that's not very nice of me to have double standards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not walking around consciously like
yeah,
calculating these things. These are the things that we're completely unaware of,
yeah,
and that we've got to dig in and dig those things up so we
mhm,
can actually change them because
yeah,
these are the limitations and behaviors that are preventing you from having the marriage that you want and the experience of yourself
hmm,
that you want as well. Because if this is how you're showing up in your marriage and it's so unconsciously, it's very unkind and you don't know you're doing it, when we act on those things, then we begin to feel bad about ourselves
mm, that's
because of
right.
what we're doing unconsciously, and that
That's right.
affects that affects everything. That affects our happiness. It affects how we experience life. So it's very unkind to your husband, but also realize this is being unkind to yourself
A
and
very good
preventing
point.
you from being who you really are and who
Yeah,
you're meant to be.
yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you. Very good point.
yeah,
So why do women have, and in this case, married women have
yeah.
double standards? What did we uncover? And
Yeah, so try to hear yourself in this because it's spoken in I language. So see if you can kind of hear me as if I'm talking about you of why we have double standards as women. I can do no wrong.
mm,
I want to control my husband. I want to paint a picture that I am perfect, meaning I have it all together. I don't want to change. And I don't want anyone telling me what to do, which is a perfect one to end on because that is like the ultimate double standard. I don't want anyone telling me what to do, but I'll tell you what to do.
yeah, and I expect you to do
And I
it.
expect you to do it and to
Or
listen to me, but
yeah,
don't you tell me what to
yeah,
do.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
a very common thing that we work with uh, women. Is they at some level they're very obstinate and get very stubborn and dig their heels in, and they when they I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and don't tell me when I should do something. And it becomes very kind of a very rebellious attitude that comes from when often when we're kids and our parents are trying to be parents to us. Often as children, we rebel against the authority, and we say, "Don't tell me what to do." I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And what happens is if we are that rebellious child growing up, we bring that into our adulthood, and we basically become grown-up children who have grown up adult temper tantrums, and that's often what's behind double standards is don't tell me what to do, and you're not the boss of me. But
Yeah.
at a very deep rebellious level that is very unconscious with very many women that we've worked with over the years. It's like, yeah, nobody's going to control me. Don't
Yeah.
even think that you have any chance of controlling me
Well,
at
and
a
that,
very deep fundamental level.
yeah, and that too, David, is where that one double standard of don't question me.
Yeah,
I can question you, but don't you question me.
yeah,
That's where that comes from. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
yeah.
So don't question me.
So in our um, title, we said, why your husband never does what you tell him to do. What's the problem with double standards in a marriage, and how does a husband respond when their wife has double standards? And what what
Uh,
what kind of message is she sending her husband when she has double standards?
Well, when we have double standards in our marriage with our husbands, we're really sending mixed messages to them, which causes them to be confused and to have a lot of self-doubt. And underneath all that, again, this is unconscious. We're not doing these things consciously, but this is what's going on underneath the surface that again, we have to shed light on if we ever want
Mm,
to see change, because this is what's running the ship, not the stories you tell yourself about
okay.
your husband, but these unconscious behaviors in ourselves. So really what it's doing is it's a manipulation to be in control to keep our husbands weak and wrong. And you might wonder, well, I don't want to keep my husband weak and wrong. Why would I want to do that?
Mm,
But at a very unconscious level, we do because we fear being left and we fear being alone. So and because we feel weak and
mm,
small and
mhm,
wrong within ourselves, just in our humanness, that's then how we treat others, especially in a marriage, especially between the dynamic of a
mm,
man and a woman.
mhm,
A woman will unconsciously emasculate her husband and make him feel weak and wrong so that he won't leave.
mhm,
And then she can use that then as an excuse when things are
Mm-hmm.
are really tough, and there's a lot of what we call back doors open, then she can leave
Mm-hmm.
because she's the one in control. And again, that comes from a place of feeling weak and small within ourselves. So at a fundamental level, it's a manipulation to be in control. So
Yes.
we don't have to face being alone or face that own weak and wrong experience of ourselves.
That's very well said. At a new life center, what our strategy is to build a relationship with yourself, so you feel
Yeah.
grounded and strong, in touch with who you are, so that weakness that we feel naturally inside, we can overcome by building self-value and self-confidence about who we are. But what happens in marriages, we become so intertwined with our husbands that we lose our sense of self and self-identity. And what our mind tells us is our husbands is causing us to feel this way, but actually it's because we've lost our sense of self and who we are, and actually become quite codependent on our husband, our partners, for how we feel about ourselves. And what we do in our strategy is to rebuild the relationship with ourselves, to find out ways to find ourselves again, and to come out taking care of ourselves and being responsible for our own happiness. So, what's the solution to having double standards in a
Yeah.
marriage for a woman?
Really, the solution is to look at ourselves and to re-engage and recommit to having personal integrity.
And what is personal
Um,
integrity?
to
Like,
really to make a conscious choice and to consciously want to be the best version of myself
yeah,
that I am who I say I am.
yeah. Oh, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That I
because
am who
double
I say
standard
I
is the
am.
opposite of that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because I'm not willing to do those things that
Yeah.
I'm
So
expecting on my
say,
husband.
yeah. Sorry to interrupt. So say
Mhm.
again what personal integrity is.
It's that I am who I say I am
Yeah. And
and being the best version of myself. And
okay.
I think for a long time I wanted to think if I just said that and that was kind of my motto or my
Yeah.
value that I lived
Yeah.
by, that I
Yeah.
would naturally just be that.
Yeah.
And what I have learned in my own experience and on my own journey is understanding that it's a daily practice
Yeah.
to be able to have integrity, to be able to be who I say I am and who I want to be. Then I've got to be willing to catch myself in all the ways that I am not
Hmm.
who I say that who I'm not how I'm not who I say I am,
Yeah.
so that I can show up as myself, and that's a clear cut path to have personal integrity.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it aligns very much with this concept of being authentic.
Yeah.
Over the years, many women have come in and I work with, and they say, "Oh, I'm very authentic. I'm transparent, and everybody knows me exactly who I am." But in that's authentic really means being true to yourself, and part of being true to yourself is having personal integrity. That means that when I say something, I follow through and do it. I have a commitment to my own integrity, to value myself enough so that I'm going to follow through and do the hard things, and be responsible for my own actions and behaviors. Can you read the Girl Scout law, Karen? Because it's really a simple way to describe what personal integrity is, because it can be kind of a confusing. Well, I have integrity, but
Yeah.
a good way to see if you are is, do you live by this standard, or is this your gold standard at which you choose to live by every day and in your marriage with your husband? And what is that?
So the Girl Scout law, it's a personal pledge to how we're going to show up each day in our lives and in our marriage. And it's, I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and be responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others.
Yeah, and I hope that that's, if the listeners can say, if I apply that, can you have you read it one more time, Karen?
Mhm. That I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and be responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others.
Yeah. So if we can take that as a gold standard and remind ourselves every day to live from that perspective, being true to ourselves and to being the best version of ourselves, then I hope you can understand how your life would transform overnight. That if I am living from that perspective, then I'm interacting with my husband and my children and everybody around me from that perspective. But if I live from a place of double standards, expecting others to do things that I'm not willing to do, you can begin to understand the types of relationships that we unconsciously create in our lives. And our mind wants to think of, well, it's my relationship with my mother is because of my mother, or it's my father, or it's my husband, or it's my kids. And all that does is distract ourselves from the responsibility that we have to be the best we can and grow and change. And that's the central aspect of the strategy we have at a new life center, is to be responsible and to choose to be the best we can and overcome our behavioral patterns that has caused our relationships to be mostly unsatisfied and making us feel unhappy. So can you kind of do a recap today,
I
what we
can.
talked about, Karen? Thank you.
Yeah. So today we were talking about why your husband never does what you tell him to do. And the concept we were teaching about as it relates to that is the concept of double standards. And a double standard, again, is finding fault in our partners so that we don't have to change. And it's putting all the focus on them and their flaws and issues so that we don't have to look at our own issues and flaws and do the work on ourselves. And
Mhm.
when we do this, and again, like we've said throughout the video, it's unconscious, but when we can shine the light on it and see it,
Mhm.
then we can actually start to do the work to change it. And what it does at an unconscious level when we have double standards in our marriage is that it makes our husbands feel confused because she's saying to do one thing, but she's doing a totally other thing. Who am I supposed to be in this? And it causes them to be in self doubt. And we use this unconsciously as a way to manipulate and control the relationship,
Mhm.
which makes our husband feel weak and wrong. And then that causes him, because that's, again, kind of tying back into some of our central messages, that's us
Mhm.
putting our walls up.
Mhm.
And they retract and respond to those walls and then withdraw, and they don't want to do anything that you're telling them to do because it's coming from a really unkind, harsh place. And they're constantly getting the message, I can't do anything right.
That's right.
Everything I do is wrong. So why try? And then we push them away, and then we live in this false myth of they're oblivious to our needs when really we've thrown the first punch and we've created this experience in our
Mhm.
marriage.
Yeah, thank you, Karen.
Yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, uh-oh, I've got a lot of double standards, or I know I have my walls up, or I know I'm really unhappy and I feel stuck and trapped
Mhm.
and alone, and you feel like there's no way out, or you've tried all the books, you've tried counseling, you've done the workshops, and you still just feel like you're on a hamster wheel and coming up against the same issues again and again in your marriage, we can help. And it all starts with a phone call. So if you want to talk and get crystal clear
Mhm.
on what's really going on in your marriage that's blocking you and stopping you from having the relationship you always wanted, then let's talk. I can help you get really clear on what's really going on so you're not going around in circles anymore.
Mhm.
And then if you're ready and you're committed to do whatever it takes
Mhm.
to turn your marriage around and find your happiness within, then we can talk about if we're a good fit to work together. And if not, I'll be really honest about that because this work isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But if you're interested in finding out or you just want to get clear, then
Mhm.
private message me and we'll set up some time to talk. So, yeah.
Thank you, Karen. That's
Yeah, thank
I
you.
always feel so grateful to share this with you, and knowing that you're working hard in your marriage and
Mhm.
constantly looking at yourself and wondering how you can be the best partner and person you can be. And it's a joy to share this and how much you help married women save their marriages and save their lives and re-engage again and feel like there's a purpose and they find themselves and feel alive and energized and almost in a very short process. This is not like years of therapy. It's a very strategic step-by-step plan that can transform marriages almost
Mm.
overnight. And I'm so grateful that you're doing the work yourself and are true to yourself so you can help other women, guide them into the same place. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being you, Karen. And I hope everybody has a lovely afternoon, and thank you for listening to us, and have
We'll
a nice
see you
day.
next week. All right.
Okay. Thank you,
Bye.
Karen.
Of
Bye-bye.
course.